I caught my parents on my security camera planning to move my brother into my apartment while I was out of town. Once Cody's settled, Carolyn won't dare to kick him out, Dad said. So, I set them up and exposed some things at the family dinner. All right, Reddit, I need outside eyes on this. Grab your popcorn, enjoy the shit show, and tell me if I overreacted. I'm Carolyn T. Welch, 31, female, and I was halfway through debugging a clusterfuck of legacy code when I checked my apartment security feed and saw my parents letting themselves in. Normal Wednesday afternoon, right? I'd given them a spare key for emergencies, except my dad was holding a tape measure. I watched through my phone as he started measuring my walls, not just casually looking around, actively measuring. My mom was taking notes on her phone, doing that thing where she tilts her head and squints like she's imagining new furniture. Then my younger brother Cody walks in behind them like he owns the place. He was smirking. "This is perfect," Cody said, dropping onto my leather couch and putting his feet on my coffee table. "Way better than that dump I've been crashing at. And Carolyn's never even here anyway, always at the office." My mom nodded along, still taking notes. "We'll need to move the desk out of the second bedroom. That can be Cody's room. Carolyn can work from the office like everyone else." "I'm sorry, what?" My dad measured the doorways, the hallway, the whole 9 yards. "Once Cody's stuff is moved in, Carolyn won't make a scene. She'll understand family comes first. We just need to do it while she's in San Francisco for that conference next month." I sat there at my desk watching these people plot to steal my apartment in real time, and I started laughing. That dead cold laugh that makes your coworkers look at you like you've gone crazy. My business partner, Scott, glanced up from his monitor with this "should I be concerned?" expression. Maybe he should be, because I just watched my family plan a hostile takeover of my apartment, and instead of feeling shocked or hurt, I felt something else entirely: relief. Because now I had them all on camera, and I was about to make them regret every single choice that led to this moment. See, I'm a software architect. I own 30% of a startup that just got Series B funding. I make good money, real good money. And 6 months ago, after my mom borrowed my grandfather's vintage Rolex from my apartment, the only thing I had from my dad's father, who actually gave a damn about me, I installed a full security system, cameras, motion sensors, the works. Found that Rolex 3 weeks later on Cody's wrist in an Instagram photo. He told his friends he bought it with his business earnings. Cody's business earnings consisted of whatever MLM scheme he was currently failing at, while Mom and Dad funded his lifestyle. I'd been documenting everything since then. Every conversation, every time they chose Cody over me, every dismissive comment about how I should help family while Cody bled them dry. They just handed me enough evidence to bury them all. I texted my brother, "Hey, want to grab dinner this weekend? Been too long." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. They were probably conferring, wondering if I somehow knew. "Yeah, sis. Sounds good. Mom and Dad free too?" "Sure. Bring everyone. I'll cook at my place Saturday." I had 4 days to prepare, 4 days to set the trap. And Cody, that smug jerk, walked right into it thinking he'd already won. I grew up in Seattle as the older child of Philip and Janet Kowalski. Dad ran a successful import business. Mom managed rental properties they owned. We had money. We had a nice house in Bellevue. We had everything, except I didn't have parents who saw me. I had investors who stopped investing the moment Cody was born. I was 8 when my brother arrived. And I went from firstborn to forgotten overnight. The responsible one. The one who didn't need help because she was so capable for her age. Funny how an 8-year-old becomes self-sufficient when nobody's watching anymore. Cody got basketball camp while I was told sports were a waste of time. He got a brand new Audi for his 16th birthday while I worked at Best Buy to buy my own used truck. I got into MIT and they suggested state school would be more practical. Cody barely graduated high school and they celebrated like he'd cured cancer. Bought him a condo near UW even though he dropped out after 1 semester. I worked my rear off through MIT, through years of grinding at tech companies, through building my own startup. 3 years ago, I bought this apartment in downtown Seattle. Corner unit, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, the whole flex. It was my proof that I didn't need their approval or their money. I'd given them the spare key because some pathetic part of me still wanted them to be proud of me. That key was about to cost them everything. The day after watching them measure my furniture, Cody texted me, "Hey sis, need to ask you something important." I smiled at my phone. "Sure. Why don't you all come over Saturday? I'll make that Korean BBQ you guys like." I spent the next 4 days preparing, but not food. I was organizing evidence, financial records showing every loan I'd given Cody that he never repaid, screenshots of the 7 different business ventures my parents had funded for him that all failed, bank statements proving I'd paid for family dinners, vacations, gifts, while Cody contributed nothing and took everything. But the real work had been happening for months. See, Cody's current girlfriend, Nicole, had reached out to me 12 weeks ago through LinkedIn. Professional message, very polite. She'd noticed we had the same last name and took a shot. Turns out Cody had been using her credit cards to fund his latest business venture, some crypto trading course, MLM nonsense. He'd maxed out 3 of her cards, about $40,000 total, while telling her he was investing their money in a guaranteed opportunity. The opportunity was him buying bottle service at clubs and trying to recruit people into his downline. Nicole had receipts, all of them, and she'd been working with me to document everything, because Cody had also told her that I was a trust fund kid who'd never worked a real day in my life. Meanwhile, he'd been telling my parents that Nicole's family was wealthy, and he was networking for business opportunities. All lies. Nicole was a nurse working double shifts while Cody drained her accounts. But the best part, Cody had recently started listing my apartment as his business address for his LLC, using my address for business registration without asking, probably to look more legitimate to whatever marks he was currently scamming. That meant every piece of mail, every legal document, every trace of his shady business dealings was now tied to my property, and that was going to be useful. Saturday arrived, perfect weather. I grilled bulgogi and set the table nice. My apartment looked clean, professional, successful, everything they'd tried to take. The folders sat in my home office waiting. The trap was set, and Cody was about to learn that the sister he'd dismissed his entire life was a lot smarter than she looked. Douglas, my partner, squeezed my shoulder before the doorbell rang. "You sure you're ready for this?" "More than ready," I said. He kissed my forehead. "I'm right here." They showed up at 6. Mom brought drinks. Dad immediately started eyeing the walls he'd measured 3 days ago. Cody walked in with this grin, already acting like he lived here, and behind him came Nicole. She caught my eye and gave the tiniest nod. She was in on it. "Carolyn, this place looks great," Cody said, dropping onto my couch, exactly like he had on camera. "You keeping it clean for once?" I smiled. "Special occasion." Mom headed straight to the kitchen. "You should really get better knives, sweetie. These are dull." "I like them sharp enough to cut through nonsense, but thanks for the feedback." She blinked, not sure if I'd just insulted her. We ate dinner. Cody dominated the conversation like always, talking about his latest business opportunity, how he was about to blow up, how he had investors lining up. Dad nodded along like he was the next Elon Musk. Mom kept refilling his glass. Nicole stayed quiet. Douglas kept an eye on me, calm, steady, the anchor in the room. "So, brother," I said, setting down my chopsticks, "how's the apartment hunting going?" He exchanged looks with our parents. Dad jumped in smooth as ever. "Maybe you could help your brother out. You've got that extra bedroom collecting dust." "The office," Mom added. "You could work from the company office like everyone else. Cody needs a stable address for his business. Family helps family, Carolyn." I took a slow sip. "That's interesting because I could have sworn I saw you all in here earlier this week measuring my walls, planning where to put Cody's stuff without asking me, without even telling me." The silence was beautiful. Cody's smirk faltered. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom opened her mouth. "I have security cameras," I continued. "Full coverage. Installed them after Mom borrowed Grandpa Kowalski's Rolex from my bedroom. Remember that, brother? The Rolex you told your friends you bought with your business earnings?" His face went red. "You said those were just for the front door." I lied. "And I've got video of you 3 planning to move Cody in while I'm at a conference. Dad, you want to hear your exact words?" I pulled out my phone and played the audio. Dad's voice filled my apartment clear as day. "Carolyn won't make a scene. She'll understand. Family comes first. We just need to do it while she's in San Francisco next month." Nicole shifted in her seat, and I saw the anger flash across her face. She'd been lied to about so many things, and now she was watching it all come together. Dad started to bluster. Now, Carolyn, you're taking this out of context. Context? You broke into my freaking home to plan a hostile takeover. That's the context. We're your family, Mom said, her voice rising. How can you be so selfish? Your brother needs help right now. He's building something important. I laughed. Important? Cody, what business are you in again? This week? Cryptocurrency education, he said defensively. It's going to be huge. It's a pyramid scheme, Nicole said quietly. All eyes turned to her. He maxed out 3 of my credit cards. $40,000. For what? Bottle service, club photos for Instagram. Your business opportunity doesn't exist. Cody's face went from red to pale. Nicole, what the heck? Don't. Her voice was ice. Carolyn called me 2 months ago. We've been comparing notes. What the heck is going on? Dad asked. Mom looked between them, confused. Carolyn, what is she talking about? I'm talking about your son being a fraud. Nicole, you want to show them the credit card statements? She pulled out a folder. I'd taught her well. She spread the statements across my table. Charges at nightclubs, designer clothes, expensive dinners. Not a single legitimate business expense in the bunch. Cody told me he was investing our money, Nicole said. Told me we'd be millionaires by the end of the year. Instead, I'm $40,000 in debt, and he's been living like a trust fund kid on my credit. That's not... I can explain, Cody stammered. Explain what? I cut him off. Explain how you've been using my apartment as your business address without asking? Yeah, I know about that too. You registered your LLC to my address without my consent. I pulled the public filings and contacted the businesses you were dealing with. Kowalski Capital Ventures, LLC. That's your company, right? The one you're using to scam people into buying your crypto course. He stood up, knocking his chair back. You had no right. You had no right to use my address. And you know what else I found in those public records? You're under FTC investigation for deceptive business practices. You're being sued by 3 different people for fraud. And you've been hiding all of this by using my address so Mom and Dad wouldn't find out. Dad's face was stone. Now what the actual fug? Is this true, Cody? It's all garbage. Carolyn's just jealous because... Because what? I stood up. Because I actually built something real while you've been running scams? Because I worked my rear off while you coasted on Mom and Dad's money? Because I bought this place with money I earned and you thought you could just take it? Mom was crying now. Carolyn, please. He's your brother. He made mistakes, but family forgives. Forgives? Right, wait a sec. I walked to my office and came back with more folders. Let me tell you what I'm forgiving. Cody has borrowed $73,000 from me over the past 6 years. Not $1 paid back. You two have borrowed another $45,000. Also not paid back. Meanwhile, Cody's living off Nicole's credit cards, using my address for his scam business, and you 3 were planning to illegally move him into my apartment. I dropped the folders on the table. This is everything. Every loan, every lie, every time you chose him over me. Every time you told me to be more understanding while he took advantage of everyone around him. Cody was sweating. You can't prove any of this means... I can prove all of it. I flicked through tabbed sections. Bank transfers, text messages, emails, recorded conversations, and the best part. Nicole's lawyer is filing a civil suit against you for fraud. The FTC is investigating your deceptive business practices, and you've been using my address as your business registration without my consent. That's going to look real good when the feds start asking questions about mail fraud. Dad finally found his voice, but it was shaky. Carolyn, I think you're overreacting. This is still family. No, I said. Family doesn't break into each other's homes. Family doesn't spend 3 decades teaching one kid she's worthless while the other kid can do no wrong. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out, all of you. Leave your key on the table. If you contact me again, if you come near this apartment, I'll file for restraining orders. And Cody, Nicole's lawyer is CCing me on everything. I'm going to watch you burn. Cody grabbed his jacket, rage twisting his face. You're going to regret this. You think you're so dang smart with your job and your fancy apartment. You've always been a smug jerk, and now everyone's going to know it. Better a smug jerk than a fraud living off other people's credit cards. He stormed out. Nicole followed, but paused at the door and looked back at me. Thank you, she mouthed. I nodded. She'd get her money back. I'd make sure of it. My parents left slower, Mom still crying, Dad wearing that mask of controlled anger I remembered from childhood. "You're going to regret this," Dad said quietly. "When you're alone and need family, we won't be there." "Good," I said. "I've been alone my whole life. I won't notice." After they left, I locked the door, engaged the deadbolt, and walked to my window. The skyline stretched out in front of me, lights reflecting off Elliott Bay. My apartment, my sanctuary, still mine. Douglas wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You did it," he said softly. "I did," I breathed. The relief was physical. And I'm done. Monday morning hit me with 17 texts from my mom, each one more desperate and guilt-trippy than the last. I blocked her number after reading the first one. Blocked Dad. Blocked Cody. The silence was peaceful. Nicole called that afternoon. Her lawyer had filed. Cody had been served and was blowing up her phone. I told her not to answer, that the documentation spoke for itself. She thanked me again for believing her, for helping her build the case. Most people wouldn't have had the guts to reach out to their scammer's family, but she'd been smart enough to know I might actually listen. The week that followed was chaos, but the good kind. Turned out Cody had been running his business out of 3 different addresses, mine, Nicole's, and a P.O. box in Tacoma. The FTC had been building a civil case for months based on deceptive trade practices, but once my documentation and Nicole's evidence landed, the DOJ opened a criminal investigation for wire fraud and mail fraud. Federal agents executed a search warrant at his apartment on Wednesday. The evidence they found: fake testimonials, stolen course materials, records of who he'd scammed, sealed it. Scott sent me the news article with the headline, "Local Man Charged with Wire Fraud in Crypto Education Scheme." Cody's mugshot looked exactly how you'd expect. Stunned, shocked that consequences existed. "Your brother?" Scott asked when I got to the office. "Not anymore." Watching Cody's Instagram go from flexing lifestyle to complete radio silence was poetic. His followers started commenting, asking questions. Then someone linked the fraud charges. Then Nicole posted a statement about financial abuse. Then everything unraveled beautifully. Cody had been scamming people with a $2,000 cryptocurrency masterclass that was basically YouTube videos he'd stolen and repackaged. About 40 students had paid him, none of whom learned anything except how to lose money. They all started coming forward. The lawsuits piled up. My parents tried a different approach after that. They sent my uncle, Dad's brother, to talk to me. Uncle Henry was a good guy, never played favorites, always treated me square. We met for coffee on Friday. He told me straight up that Dad had asked him to intervene, but he'd told Dad he was an idiot. He'd watched them screw me over for years, had warned them they'd lose me. They hadn't listened. Cody had been a spoiled brat since birth, and everyone knew it except my parents. He pulled out his phone and told me Nicole had called him, asked if he'd be a witness in her case against Cody. He'd said yes without hesitation. That kid needed to learn consequences, and my parents needed to learn they couldn't enable their way out of this one. He slid a business card across the table, his lawyer's info, already briefed on my situation. Ready to help with restraining orders or property protection if needed. I took the card and squeezed his hand. "Thanks, Uncle." "Don't thank me," he said. "Just don't let them weasel their way back into your life. You're better off without them." He was right. Cody's arraignment was the following Monday. Nicole went and sent me updates throughout. Cody showed up in a cheap suit with a bus bench lawyer, parents looking devastated in the gallery. The judge set bail at $50,000. Dad had to use the house as collateral. The whole time, Cody glared at Nicole like she'd orchestrated his downfall instead of just documenting it. Zero accountability, exactly as expected. That evening, Scott and I grabbed drinks in Capitol Hill. He'd been my business partner for 4 years, knew all the family drama, never judged. He asked what was next for me, now that my family was imploding and Cody was facing federal charges. I told him the truth. Nothing changes, I just keep living my life. They were never really part of it anyway. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I glanced down. "Carolyn, it's your mother. I borrowed your father's phone. Please call me. Cody needs help. He could go to prison. You're his only family with the resources to hire a good lawyer. I'm begging you." I showed Scott the text. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I deleted it and blocked the number. Nothing. He made his choices. 3 weeks later, Nicole's civil suit was settled. Cody had no money, but my parents did. They paid $40,000 to keep it from going to trial. probably hoping it would make the federal charges look better for sentencing. It didn't help. Nicole messaged me that she got the money and was paying off the cards. She mentioned Cody had tried to blame everything on me during depositions, said I'd set him up out of jealousy. Nobody believed him because I had evidence for everything. Meanwhile, my startup hit a major milestone. We closed a deal with a Fortune 500 company, which meant my equity was now worth serious money, like retire at 40 money. Scott and I celebrated by upgrading our office space and hiring 3 more developers. My life was objectively better without my family in it. 6 months passed. I built a life most people only dream about. The startup was thriving. My apartment remained mine. Douglas and I were solid, quiet dinners, weekend hikes, a relationship that felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. Cody's trial date was set for November. The FTC had him dead to rights: wire fraud, deceptive business practices, identity theft. His bus bench lawyer was trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't interested. They wanted to make an example. I kept minimal tabs on my former family through Uncle Henry. Cody was living with my parents in their house, which they'd had to remortgage to pay for his legal fees, and Nicole's settlement. Dad's business had taken a hit. Mom had to sell 2 of her rental properties. I felt nothing about their situation. They'd made their choices. Then came the email. Wednesday afternoon, between code reviews. Subject line: "We need to talk." No sender name, but I knew who it was. I opened it anyway. "Carolyn, it's your father. I'm using a work email because you blocked our numbers. Cody is facing prison time, 3 to 5 years. The only way to avoid it is to pay restitution to everyone he scammed, nearly $200,000. We don't have that kind of money anymore. Your mother's health is suffering. Do you know how it feels to be treated like criminals because of your own child? I raised you better than this. Your brother made mistakes. He's alone. Please call me. Let's fix this before it's too late." I read it twice and recognized the manipulation patterns instantly. The old me would have felt crushing guilt. The current me recognized it for exactly what it was. I forwarded it to Uncle Henry with one line: "They're still at it." He replied, "Don't engage. They're desperate. Cody's probably going to prison, and they're looking for someone to blame." I didn't respond to Dad. Responding would only confirm this method worked. A week later, a second email, this time from Cody. "Carolyn, ignoring people who need you is kind of your specialty, right? I can't get a job. Everyone in town knows my business because of you. You took the life I could have had. You sabotaged my business. One day you're going to be in that apartment you guard like Fort Knox and realize all your success means nothing without family. And by the way, I know your routines. Don't think you're untouchable. Karma's a beach, big sister." I read the last paragraph twice. That was new. That was a threat. I forwarded both emails to the lawyer. He called within the hour. The threat in the second email gives us what we need. Combined with their documented trespassing and this escalating pattern, we can file for a restraining order. How fast can we move? I'll file tomorrow. With the explicit threat and your documentation, we should get a temporary order within 72 hours, full hearing in 2 weeks. I started keeping a detailed log of everything, every email, every blocked call, every social media scrape, building an airtight case. The temporary restraining order came through 3 days later. Cody was ordered to stay at least 500 feet from my residence and workplace, cease all contact, direct or indirect. The full hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out, but the TRO was enforceable immediately. Violation meant arrest. Mom tried one last email through her work account, claiming I was tearing the family apart over nothing. Henry's lawyer sent a response making it clear any further contact would result in harassment charges and evidence presented at the hearing. The full hearing came 2 weeks later. Cody didn't show, probably on advice of his federal defense attorney. The judge made the order permanent based on the documented threats, the trespassing attempt, and the pattern of harassment. 500 feet. No contact. No exceptions. Violation meant immediate arrest. I updated building security with the court order and Cody's photo. Andrew, the head of security, flagged it in their system with instructions to call police immediately if he showed up. 3 weeks passed quietly after that. Then Scott called me while I was working late. You need to get home. Now." "What's wrong?" "Cody's at your building. Security called me when they couldn't reach you. He's in the lobby demanding to see you." "I'm on my way." I made it to my building in 15 minutes, speeding the whole way. When I pulled into the garage, I called building security. "Ms. Welch," said Andrew, the night guard. "He's still here. Showed up about 40 minutes ago claiming there's a family emergency. We told him you're not here, and he's not on the approved list, but he won't leave. Says he'll wait all night if he has to." "Call the police," I said, gripping the wheel tighter. "He's not supposed to be within 500 feet of this building." "Already done," Andrew replied. "They're on their way. I just wanted you to know before you came up." Through the phone, I could hear Cody's voice echoing in the background. "Come on, man, I just need 5 minutes with my sister. There's been an accident. This is an emergency." Andrew's voice stayed calm. "Sir, I've confirmed with Ms. Welch directly. There's no emergency. You're violating a restraining order by being here. The police are on their way." "This is ridiculous," Cody snapped. "She's my sister. She can't just cut me off like this." "Sir," Andrew said firmly, "you need to leave the premises immediately, or you'll be arrested." "Then let them arrest me," Cody shouted. "At least I'll get to see her face when they drag me out. She thinks she's so dang untouchable up there in her tower." I stayed in my car, listening. Every instinct in me wanted to go upstairs, to face him, to end it. But I knew exactly what he wanted, a reaction, a scene, and I refused to give him one. The police arrived 8 minutes later. Through the phone, I could hear them trying to reason with him. He switched tactics fast, from angry to pitiful, like flipping a switch. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said, voice cracking. "I just want to fix things with my family. She's turned everyone against me. I just need 5 minutes." The officers weren't buying it. "You're trespassing," one of them said. "She's confirmed there's no emergency. You need to leave, or you'll be arrested for violating a court order." His voice dropped lower, darker. "Fine. Tell Carolyn her perfect tech queen life won't last forever. Tell her people who burn bridges usually end up alone. Tell her I'm not done." Footsteps shuffled. Doors opened. Then Andrew came back on the line. "He's gone." Officers escorted him to his car and watched him leave. "They're filing an incident report. You might want to stay off-site tonight, just to be safe." "Thank you," I said quietly. He hesitated. "Ms. Welch, if I may," he seemed unstable. "You might consider additional security measures." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "I will." After hanging up, I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. For the first time in years, I felt fear. Not of Cody exactly, but of what desperation might make him do. Douglas called the moment he saw my missed texts. He didn't ask questions, just said, "I'm coming." He was at my place an hour later, knocking softly before letting himself in. When I opened the door, his eyes immediately searched mine. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, though my voice came out thinner than I wanted. He pulled me into his arms, holding me close until my heartbeat slowed. "You're allowed to be shaken," he murmured. "That doesn't make you weak." "I'm just ticked off," I said into his chest. "That's allowed too." We sat on the couch for a long while, not talking, just breathing the same air. Then he pulled back, looking at me with that steady gaze that always grounded me. "What are you going to do?" "My lawyer's filing a violation report first thing in the morning. Cody might go to jail just for showing up here." "Then let him," Douglas said. "Maybe that'll finally make him stop." "Exactly." He stayed the night. We didn't talk much more about it, but having him there, someone who chose to be there without obligation or guilt, reminded me exactly why cutting my family off had been the right choice. The violation report was filed the next morning. By the afternoon, my lawyer called to confirm Cody's bail was revoked. He was taken into custody pending his fraud trial. Uncle Henry phoned that same evening. "Your mom called me, crying again," he said with a sigh. "Wanted me to talk you into dropping everything now that Cody's in custody." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her Cody violated a court order, that he'd been warned repeatedly, and that you're done being their safety net." She didn't take it well. He paused. "But it's not your problem anymore, Carolyn. Don't let them drag you back in." I promised him I wouldn't. Cody's defense attorney scrambled for a plea deal, but it didn't matter. The restraining order violation killed any sympathy angle they might have had. His federal case moved fast after that. His attorney negotiated a plea, guilty to wire fraud and mail fraud, in exchange for 18 months in federal prison and 5 years supervised release with full restitution to his victims. The prosecutor accepted. My parents would spend years paying off his debts while he did his time, and I would spend that time finally completely free. 15 months later, he got out early on good behavior. Uncle Henry gave me a heads up a week before his release. "He's been asking about you," he said. "Apparently went to some rehabilitation program in prison. Says he wants to make amends." Amends? I laughed softly. That's rich. I figured you'd say that, he replied. Just be careful. People like him don't change overnight. I'm not worried, I said. He's not part of my world anymore. And he wasn't. My life had become exactly what I wanted it to be. The startup was thriving. Douglas and I had moved in together. I had a life built entirely on peace, effort, and choice, not obligation. Then, one gray Tuesday afternoon, Scott appeared in my office doorway looking uncomfortable. Carolyn, he said, your brother's downstairs. Security stopped him, but he's asking to talk to you. I exhaled slowly. He's not supposed to come near me. Andrew called me first, Scott said. He hasn't caused trouble, yet. Says he just wants to talk. I stared at my monitor for a few seconds, then stood. Tell them I'll come down, but I'm not letting him up here. I took the elevator to the lobby. The moment the doors opened, I saw him standing by the windows. Prison had hollowed him out. His skin looked gray, his hair uneven. Carolyn, he said as soon as he saw me, thanks for coming down. You've got 5 minutes, I said flatly. He looked around the lobby, taking it all in. The polished floors, the reception desk, the hum of quiet success. Nice place, he muttered. You and your business partner doing well. 4 minutes, I said. He sighed, then launched into a speech I'm sure he'd rehearsed. Said he knew he'd messed up. Said prison had changed him. Said he'd been to counseling, learned accountability, wanted to apologize. It lasted maybe 90 seconds before I cut him off. No, I said. You're sorry you got caught, not for what you did. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. I've changed. Prison didn't change you, I said. It just took away your access to victims. He stepped forward slightly. You're being unfair. I'm trying to make amends here. Don't, I said, voice hard. You're trying to use me again. I can't be fooled anymore. His mask cracked, just for a second. That same flash of anger from the night I exposed him flickered across his face. I should have known you'd be like this, he snapped. Henry warned me, said you'd never forgive me. He's a smart man, I said. And that's when the real Cody came out. You think you're better than everyone, he spat. Mom and Dad are broke. Nicole took everything. And you sit up here looking down on us like trash. You destroyed this family. You destroyed yourself, I said calmly. You just needed someone else to blame. His lip curled. You really going to hate me forever? Never give me another chance? I'm not going to think about you at all, I said. That's the point you keep missing. You're just some guy I used to know who kept making terrible choices. You can't say that. I'm your brother. No, I said quietly. You're someone who shares my DNA. And here's what's going to happen now. You're going to leave, never contact me again, never show up at my office or apartment, and never reach out through anyone else. You got out of prison. Good for you. Now go rebuild your life somewhere far away from mine. He sneered. And if I don't? Then you keep making the same mistakes, I said. But you stay away from me while you do, because I'll make sure you always face consequences. He stared at me, trying to call my bluff. I smiled slightly. Your probation officer might be interested to hear about this meeting, I said. That changed his expression instantly. The fury drained into something brittle. He grabbed his jacket, muttering, You're a cold jerk. You know that? Yes, I said. I know. He glared. We're not done, Carolyn. One day you're going to need us, and we won't be there. Promise? He stood there a moment longer, then hissed, Screw you. Right back at you, little brother. He turned and walked out. I watched him cross the street, get into a beat-up car, and drive away. When I returned upstairs, Scott was waiting by my desk. Think he'll try again? No, I said. He knows I'll have him arrested. He's not stupid enough to go back to prison. Scott nodded. Good, because we have that investor meeting in an hour. I need you focused. I will be. I sat down, exhaled, and looked around the office. This was my life now, built from scratch, earned through years of work, and protected by boundaries I'd learned to enforce. Cody would probably try again someday. Maybe through my parents. Maybe through someone else. Maybe with another desperate plea or empty threat. But I'd ignore it, block it, delete it. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Some people will take everything you have and still believe they deserve more. The only way to protect yourself is to cut them off completely. Build a life they can't access, and thrive in spaces they can't invade. That was the only revenge that mattered.